That was the fastest I think it's ever been live.
My Wi-Fi works.
The Wi-Fi. Oh, that's what it is. Earnshaw with the non-Walmart Wi-Fi, as they used to say back in the Call of Duty days. The Walmart Wi-Fi. That's what Nick Earnshaw used to have, but he no longer has the Walmart Wi-Fi. So episode 41, the fastest it's ever been live for the shift. Nick Earnshaw, we are here. I'll let you do a little speech about your Wi-Fi. You want to talk about it before we actually get into the show? Just kidding. How are you, Nick?
I'm fantastic, Francisco. It's a snow day, fun stuff. We got a bunch of snow around the Delaware Valley where you're at, where I'm at. The Wi-Fi seems to work better when it snows. So we got that. We got that.
Look at that.
Look at that. I mean, it's a winter wonderland miracle, I guess. So listen, it's I've been good. I hope you've been good. We have a fun show today. We have a special guest coming on. I can't wait.
Guest number 2.
Oh, guest numero dos. It's going to be fun. I can't wait. But there's a lot to cover. There's going to be a lot to cover with who we're having on today. But we got to get started. There's some big news, Fran. Big news.
Huge news. There's so we're going to have Jovan in just a second. But Josh, we have a huge deal finally. Honestly, probably the biggest one since I want to say. Well, I mean, Stroman doesn't. I
think
Yamamoto was a deal. Yeah, Yamamoto was probably the biggest one. The last one with Ohtani to Yamamoto.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Hader to the Houston Astros.
How about that?
And then you had the reports in the last couple of days that the Astros were potentially looking at him, and talks were kind of heating up. But we get Josh Hader as an Astro, Nick. Josh Hader as an Astro, and it's I know you want to bring up who broke it here. I believe it was Passan, as it always is for the most part.
The man.
He is the man. ESPN's own Jeff Passan tweeting out that Josh Hader, 5 years, $95 million. I don't know. He claims that it's the biggest, but I don't know if it's a deferral thing, but Edwin Diaz is 5 years, 102. So I don't know. For me, looking at the math there, I think Edwin has the bigger contract, but I could be wrong here. But we do have a numbers guy coming up in a couple of minutes here, so maybe he can help us out a little bit. But Josh Hader to the Houston Astros, Nick. Initial thoughts, take on Hader here in Houston as we look ahead to 2024 for the Astros. What do you think about the deal?
Yeah, I was it came out that they had interest like just a couple of days ago that they were planning on targeting Josh Hader all of a sudden. So that came out, and then all of a sudden, boom, he gets a $95 million deal. And I think there's something in the contract, the deferrals, et cetera, that make it bigger than Edwin Diaz, who was at 102. So I think that's where the math comes in. But yeah, it was an interesting one, and I think it was because the Astros, they've lost some guys, and there's some guys that are still out there in free agency like Hector Neris, Phil Maton, guys like that they lost from their bullpen, right? So they had to go out and get another piece at some point. And I didn't think Hader would go to the Astros, but it seems like the rich get richer, right? It didn't seem like they were going to have like a big off season. It didn't seem like they had a ton of money, but they go out, they get Hader on this massive deal, almost $100 million for a reliever at 30 years old. I don't know how much I love it, but hey, he's going to contribute. Last year, he was second in ERA for qualified NL relievers at 1.28. So, I mean, this guy, we know what he can do. We know the stuff he has. He's legit, and he adds to another really good bullpen and pitching staff. Guys have Presley, Abreu. I mean, we know the starters that they have. Astros got another one. That's all I got to say about it.
They did. And for me, Nick, I'm looking at the rest of the American League, and especially, I know the Astros lost in the CS last year to the Rangers, but this is just a reminder, and maybe because the Astros really haven't done much this offseason, I think this is kind of like I think this puts them right there still. I think this is just a reminder that, hey, the Astros are still one of the best teams in baseball by adding Josh Hader. I still think they had a really good chance to contend this year, but I think it's a great deal for them. I really do. There's nobody in the AL that I trust right now, yeah, the Rangers. I think honestly, man, one of the first teams I thought of in the same division. This is the type of deal the Rangers should have made. They had a bad bullpen last year. This would have made a lot of sense for a team like the Texas Rangers, who Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, other guys there they've given big deals to. Like, this would have made sense for somebody like the Texas Rangers, a team like them, to make. And I would have probably had the opposite opinion on the Rangers to be right there to possibly repeat, or at least to get back to the World Series and to defend their title. But now I'm looking at the Astros saying, man, the Astros has always seem to know what they're doing no matter what, even if they have a quote unquote down season like they did last year, which is them getting to the American League Championship Series. So right now, nobody I really trust I trust in the American League. Obviously, nobody in the Central. They are in the West, so I'd put them right there at the top of the West. The American League East, Soto, Deal, Stroman, still 85 win team for me, the Yankees. The Red Sox, Lucas Giolito just doesn't do a whole lot for me. The Orioles, I still don't know if they're ready yet. Don't know if they're ready.
No. You're not going to.
Maybe the Hater deal would have done the same thing for me with the Orioles.
Oh, a Hater deal. Stop. Let's not hate on my Orioles, okay?
All right. So what do you want to step in here and talk about the Orioles?
Yeah, let's start going on the Orioles. Yes.
You want to talk about the Orioles? Go ahead.
What
do you want to say?
The Orioles won the division last year. All right, they were. This was a legit team.
Congratulations.
Team on the rise. Continue. I just don't want to see the
100 wins. They were a first round exit to the.
Yeah, you said they weren't ready. They now have playoff experience. Okay. They need a little more pitching still. I get it.
The Dodgers had playoff experience for 10 years and finally got a Mickey Mouse World Series.
They're not the Dodgers.
Congratulations to them. Playoff experience doesn't do a lot.
They're not the Dodgers.
The Rangers didn't have any playoff experience either, and they won a World Series. So it's all overrated.
I would not count out the Orioles like you just did. Don't sleep on them. Do not continue to sleep on them. It's January. All right. It's January. We're not starting it this early in the year. Not this early.
Okay, you're the one that wanted to step in and talk about the Orioles. I don't know. I got to see with Baltimore. That's all.
I had to defend them. Like I defend Ellie. I had to defend the Orioles there.
I would have, real quick before I go back, I would have liked if Baltimore made a splash and then they could. Maybe they'll get Snell. I don't know. Maybe they'll get Montgomery. That would make sense.
You never know.
And like the last thing here on the Astros. I mean, I really have to. We already know how good their team is. Like the offense, the rotation. Now you have Hader in the back of that bullpen. You weren't going to have Graveman this year. And then, like you mentioned, with Maton and Neris, I just think this makes sense for them to plug that piece right there. I think they're right there at the top for my American League pick to get to the World Series right now. And the guest we have here in a second, we're going to ask him about potential odds and maybe where this puts the Astros for the World Series. In just a couple minutes, we'll talk about that. So yeah, that's how I feel about the Hader deal, Nick. I like it for the Astros a lot. Yeah,
I mean it's a great deal for them because they get an absolute stud, another one to the back end of their bullpen. Just to go along with these guys that they have, like I mentioned earlier. And this is a team for having a down year that barely won a division. Like they had to win a division towards right at the end of the season, right? Where they stole it from the Rangers. It was a weird year for the Astros. It felt like just because we're so used to them being the dominant team, the 100-win team, 95 plus wins, whatever. And they get to the LCS and lose. So they're going to be around still. This is a team that's not going away anytime soon. They're still going to be a top contending team in the AL every single year. I get the Rangers are there. They won the World Series, but this is going to be a dogfight in that division with the Rangers and this team at the top. So I'm looking forward to it. It's another good deal for the Astros, who weren't really expected to make a gigantic splash this offseason.
Agreed. All right, let's bring guest number 2 onto the shift. This guy, he's definitely a betting man, as they would say. I am somebody who is, I never really had interest in sports betting until I got in the industry, and I was like, okay, I have to understand this. And you know what? I've come around to it. It can be exciting. Definitely. I've had my fair share of bets over the last couple of years now. And someone to help us out with the Josh Hader deal, examine this deal and talk about baseball for this upcoming season. And as it pertains to betting in Major League Baseball, Jovan Alford. of Total Sports Live and FTM Bets, formerly of DK Nation and Metro and Philly Tribune. Jovan, thank you for coming on the show.
Hey, appreciate y'all for having me on. First time, long time. Like I said, been big supporter of the pod. Really enjoy what you guys, do talking about the game and making it interesting. Because I feel like a lot of people have baseball pods and they don't make it interesting. You're just like, oh my God, can y'all like get to the point? Like there's always some type of debate, some type of like stuff going on. So glad to be on, with y'all this week and joining in the conversation.
Yeah, we appreciate you, man. One thing I gotta ask, like I know you're a Phillies guy, and I get killed for wearing a Randy Johnson jersey. Game 1 of the NLCS, I was tired. I was working overnight. I woke up, I was like, I want to wear my baseball jersey, wore a Randy Johnson jersey, and I got killed for it because I talked about it on the radio. But you're sitting here wearing, the throwback Blue Jays hat. What's this about?
Yes. Only because it matched with the hoodie. And I was like, I just came from outside, walking the dog in the snow. And I was like, all right, I need something to match with it. Because I couldn't find my baseball jerseys in time. Like I had it on mind, like, all right, I'm going to come on the show and have my jerseys ready. And yeah, it just didn't happen. So went for the quick fix with the Blue Jays hat.
Okay. I'll leave you alone. Go ahead.
I gotta intertwine. I mean, you portray this as like we should feel bad for you, Francisco.
I'm just trying to defend myself for something that I did back in October. Okay. Usually I don't bring it up. I felt like this is a time I could bring it up.
Well, you know what I'm saying? Well, you did that in October. So I mean, I can see
during Jovan, during the NLCS while the Phillies were playing.
It was good juice. They won the game. The Phillies won the game 1.
So wearing the opposing team's jersey.
The opposite argument could be that I should have wore the jersey every game and they would have just swept them. So maybe it is my fault. You know what I'm saying? I'll take the blame. That's all I'm saying. But Jovan, thank you for coming on. Josh Hader to the Astros just a couple of hours ago. What are your thoughts on the deal? It's the biggest deal since, Nick mentioned Yamamoto. What are your thoughts overall on Hader to the Astros?
First thing probably came to mind was the rich get richer. Like a team that was already, a contender in the American League. You add a power arm like that, who's coming off one of his best seasons with the Padres. Like Nick pointed out, 1.28 ERA, 33 saves, 85 strikeouts, and 56 innings pitched. Like dude was lights out for a Padres team that they just had a little bit more and played better. They could have been in their wild card hunt. So you add that to a bullpen that's already good. I didn't even notice they had the 4th best ERA in the American League. Like, and then you just add him, slide him, into the 9th spot, the closer. Then you got Presley where you can put in the 8th to bridge him to Hader, or you want to go with Abreu, you want to go Montero. Like there's so many different things you can do now with the 8th to make it scary, where it's like you have that dependable guy. Not saying that Ryan Presley wasn't dependable. He's really good, 30 plus saves last year. So I think adding Hader just makes them dangerous. You look at just last year, leaned on the sinker a ton last year, where hitters only hitting 190, but the slider probably was a more devastating pitch where guys were only hitting like 100 at plate. And he had a 51.7 whiff percentage and 38.4 put away percentage. Like dude was just knocking guys down when he got up ahead and was able to lean on, that slider. So if you're an Astros fan, you gotta be excited because the goal is to get back to the World Series and having that bullpen piece where, like y'all mentioned, before, the Rangers don't have that bullpen piece that could give you the edge when you get down into those later innings.
Yeah, most definitely. When it comes to Hader, it's like he's one of the top guys in baseball, right? Like we remember a couple years ago when we saw him in Philadelphia, in that NLCS, right? Were they going to bring him in? Like there was so much. Like he's one of those guys in the back end that's known around baseball. When he was with the Brewers, when he's with the Padres, he's one of those top guys. So to slide him in there with this team, I think it's. I think it's going to be dangerous, especially if you're in the AL right now. And this will come playoff time to have a guy like that in the back end. I think it'll be huge.
Yeah, Jovan, did this come as a surprise to you? Were you surprised? Because like this last couple of days, I see Hader, speaking with the Astros. It kind of did. It didn't surprise me now, but like it did surprise me Considering where I thought Hader was going to go and what the reports are or have been throughout the offseason. So did this come as a surprise to you?
It kind of did because you didn't really hear like Astros like looking for bullpen pieces, like because like you knew you probably were going to lose, Neris because he wants a very huge contract for what he did. But you're still thinking, all right, they have Ryan Presley, right? They have a Brady, like they have guys back there where they probably would feel secure and roll it with. It did, like you said, you see Josh Hader out of nowhere and the type of money he got, you're like, oh, all right, so it looks like he got the money that he wanted and somebody ponied up and get him to him. So I think for the Astros, I was surprised when I heard it, but when it makes sense, what this move is not so much for a regular season move. I think it's more so a postseason move. Like adding him, just hey, good luck, right? If you got to see him in the ALDS, ALCS, like good luck trying to get a couple of hits off him because if he's on his game like he was this season, I mean, it's gonna be tough.
Yeah, definitely. It's been an interesting offseason so far in Major League Baseball, right? Like it's like nothing's come like all at once. It's kind of been spread out. Guys are still out there, and there's some top guys still out there, Jovan. I'm looking at some of these names: Matt Chapman, Cody Bellinger. Those two guys, they're kind of at the top of the list, right? Where do you see a spot for Bellinger? Where does he fit best in your estimation, as well as looking at Matt Chapman, too? Two of the top bats that are still out there.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Because those two players are like kind of intertwined with, the rumors and stuff that we've been hearing about them. Like, obviously, Bellinger probably wants that big deal, but who's going to give him that at this time of the year? I mean, if you're a Cubs fan, you would love to bring him back, right? Because the way he played, especially in the second half, the dude was just untouchable. Like, if you were betting on Cody Bellinger, like, dude was bringing you home money like every game. Like, he was just at this insane tear that I don't think we saw since, when he was, rookie of the year, with the Dodgers, like when he was like that good. So to see him like kind of get back into that rhythm, that'd be nice. I mean, they could use him. Chapman, the same thing, right? I think the Cubs has been, the latest team, linked to them. That would be, offensively, he doesn't really wow you, but defensively, I think that could really be a good, addition for them just because, you've went kind of a different with a rotation at third base last year with Candelario, and you had Christopher Morel there, who I thought he really looked good too last year. But you had him, you had Wisdom, you had all these different guys, at the hot corner. Why not go with a guy like Matt Chapman? So I feel like both of those two guys are very intertwined for a Cubs team that could use both of them, and I think hopefully, we got spring training coming up soon, like in a month. So I think a lot of them, especially those two guys, I gotta think they come off the board in the next week or two.
Yeah, I want to stick with the Cubs here, Jovan. Somebody that I just think just makes so much sense for the Cubs right now. I think Chapman does. I think Bellinger does too, depending on the deal they both want. But I think Rhys Hoskins just makes so much sense for the Cubs. Where are you at on Rhys? Do you like him to the Cubs? If not, what team do you like him to go to?
Rhys to the Cubs, I think would be perfect. I mean, on a nice 1-2 year deal, even if he goes on a 1 year prove it deal, right? We've seen guys in this free agency market, get $10-11 million, on a 1 year deal. Like, who says Rhys Hoskins can't get it? He's going to be fully healthy. When he's healthy, he's giving you 20 to 30, 20 to 25 home runs. Defensively, all right. I know people have issues with his defense, being a little bit of a butcher at first base, but that bat in that offense where I think that they could use him in the middle of that lineup, I think that would be, huge for them because when you think about Cubs at first base, it was again like third base, a rotating door, right? You had so many different guys, even Cody Bellinger, playing first base, and he's not a first baseman. So getting a guy like him, that would be one of those like low risk, high reward signings. Like if he balls out, then he could pay himself and get him to another huge deal.
Real quick, I'm gonna make a dumb comparison. I always remember playing like MLB 18 or maybe it was 19, the show, and they would always have like Vasgersian saying like like, oh, here comes a future like perennial MVP candidate. For some reason, just gut feeling, and I would want this for Rhys because like I think all of us here are Rhys Hoskins fans, being Phillies fans. I could totally see him having like a career year this year for Chicago, hitting like 40 homers or something like that. By the way, defensive metrics say he's actually a decent first baseman. Just saying. MVP type of year for Rhys Hoskins for the Chicago Cubs if he does get signed with the Cubs. I could see him raking. I don't even know if Wrigley Field's considered like a pitcher's or a hitter's park. I can just see him putting it over, the whatever you want to call those things.
The Ivy.
The Ivy. Yeah, I could just see him like putting them onto the houses in the back of the I don't know. Sammy Sosa type of year, 60 homers. I don't know. Maybe. You know what I mean? I just have that gut feeling, Jovan, for some reason.
I mean, if he hits 40 home runs, you probably do not want to see Phillies Twitter when that happens. There's going to be so much buyer's remorse. Like, oh my God, like, why couldn't we keep him and bring him back? See what happened? You trying to tell me we couldn't put him at DH? But then that'll be a whole different, like, that'd be a whole different thing. Like, do you really want Kyle Schwarber in left field all year? Like,
there might be those arguments would be worth it. I don't know. Right. Offensively,
Offensively,
the 27 Yankees offense all over again, better than the Braves last year.
I wouldn't count on it, though. I wouldn't count on him at like 40 home runs. It is the Windy City. Wrigley, I don't know. I can't see that.
I'm just putting it out there. I mean, Sammy Sosa did it 65, bro. All right.
I don't think Rhys is Sammy Sosa. He definitely doesn't have the glove that you speak of. The eye test tells me that. I don't need the metrics to tell me that. The eye test.
Some glasses.
I love Rhys.
Jovan wears glasses. Get some glasses, bro.
I love Rhys, but no. No, I think when it comes to Rhys, we've heard Cubs like all season long. It's just like a matter of waiting. Like, when's it going to happen? It just makes too much sense. And with the aspect of Bellinger, like what's going to happen with him, I think that's kind of these dominoes that still need to fall in this offseason for sure. And I got to bring up Jordan Montgomery still hasn't signed. Jovan, we kind of talked about it earlier a little bit when we brought up the Orioles. Like what for Jordan Montgomery, what's a team that he would fit best on that in your estimation?
Well, you mentioned the Orioles. I think the Orioles definitely could use somebody. Like he's the perfect guy. Like if you believe that the Orioles are ready to take that next step with those young players in that young lineup, you need a bona fide starter, right? Because we saw when they got in the playoffs, they just didn't have that guy. Like no disrespect to Kyle Bradish. Like no disrespect. Like he's just not. It's playoff baseball, and we saw his levels to it when you come to pitching, right? So you add a guy like Jordan Montgomery, you can at least get certified 6 innings a night every start from him. And I think with that bullpen, even though they do have some injuries back there with Bautista, I think he would still be a very good piece there. So you got to look at that. I'm trying to think. The Rangers, I know the Rangers still been mentioned with him. And again, if you're the Rangers, I noticed that whole TV bankruptcy type of money situation. Find the money to bring him back because him and Eovaldi at the top of that rotation was just phenomenal last year. And if you want to win that division from that Astros team, you're going to kind of need them. So I think those two teams would be great. The Angels, I think they're going to have to make a move for somebody because pitching wise, they're just horrible. Like, if you're dependent on Tyler Anderson to be your ace or Patrick Sandoval, like, you gotta get some arms. So I don't know if they're like if the Angels will come in and like sneak in and like give someone the bag and be like, all right, you're not gonna be good, but like here's like hundreds of millions of dollars and like you're living in Anaheim. Like what else did you want?
Right. That's great. Just Jovan. So if the Orioles were to sign Jordan Montgomery, does that put them above the Astros? I just want you to talk to Nick real quick. Just talk to him.
No, not yet. Not yet.
Thank you.
Not yet. You need another starter. You need one more to go with Montgomery. If you get one more, I think you need two. I think, we saw that in the playoffs. Right? If you have at least if you can get, shoot, Montgomery and Snell in one off season, like if you're an Orioles fan, you might have to punch your tickets to, to the World Series.
You want to show your fan base you want to win, right?
Yeah, you do. And that would put you, right in that running, especially in the AL East where, all right, granted, the Yankees, they've made their splashes, but can you trust Carlos Rodon stay healthy? Like, do you trust that rotation? Boston, rotation not great. Tampa Bay, rotation's a little banged up, no glass now. And Toronto's going to be there. They're just going to be there. You just don't know which team is going to show up. When it comes to crunch time, you nab those two, Orioles look like that front runner because I think they're going to continue to ascend up. But for them to take that next level, they got to get a bona fide number 1 or number 2.
Yeah, I'm with you. Listen, I'm with you. I never put them over the Astros. I wasn't putting them there yet.
That's-
But I got to put them in the
Did
conversation.
Did you listen to yourself the first 5 to 10 minutes of the show?
I was just defending the
God.
Orioles because they're on their way. And Jovan's right. If they get one of those stars like a Montgomery, a Snell, even just one, and then maybe make a move later in the year because they still have the best minor league system in baseball, the best farm system in baseball, so they can make a move to get another arm at the deadline. So if they could sign one of those guys the offseason, get another guy before the deadline, I think they'd be in really, really good shape. Jovan, I want to move along to stay with free agency a little bit. For you, it's been a slow offseason, some minor moves, some bigger moves with Ohtani at the top. Who's been the biggest underrated signing you think so far this year, in your opinion?
Underrated signing. I really went back and forth because I was looking at the transactions. I'm like, all right, there's so many pitchers signing. Where's the hitters? Like, no hitters have not been signing and getting the bag. I'm kind of surprised about that. But underrated, I thought the Marcus Stroman signing by the Yankees was very underrated just because that rotation, before they signed Stroman, I was a little skeptical. Like, obviously, Nestor Cortez, is going to be healthy, but that big thing of Carlos Rodon, like, what is he going to do this year? We know what you're going to get from Garrett Cole. You lost Severino in free agency, so you kind of need some arms and depth in that rotation. So I think what he's done this year, what he's done the last few years, granted, it's nothing spectacular. Having 10 wins in baseball as a pitcher, I mean, it's great, but it's not like, wow, you got like 14, 15 and got like a stellar 2 ERA, but he's consistent when he's on. So I'll put Stroman there for me as underrated. And I'm going to say the Kansas City Royals, just what they did with their rotation, adding Seth Lugo and Michael Wacha. Lugo, I think, was really good this year, 3.57 ERA. And then Wacha has had 25 wins over the last 2 seasons. I don't know how that's possible, but he's just been able to do it on the mound. 3.22 ERA last year, and then with Boston, 3.32 ERA. You add him there, with Cole Reagans, who's starting to blow up among like the betting and like fantasy baseball community. Like, hey, like Cole Reagans could be this guy that everybody needs to watch out for. And if Brady Singer can kind of turn it around after, a rough last season, that's a nice top 4 rotation. In 5, you can do whatever you want. Jordan Lyles or whoever, Alec Marsh, like whatever you want to do at 5, right? But as long as you got that 4 with those 4, the Royals should be competitive in the AL Central, which you don't know what's going to happen, right? The Twins could do it, but the health, the rotation, what are you going to do?
Royals can win the AL Central. I mean,
it's possible.
Wins, 78 wins the AL Central. I'm just saying.
It's possible. Do you trust the White Sox? No, because they're rebuilding. The Tigers, they just dare. Like
the White Sox are more worried about getting a new stadium. That's what they're worried about. Let their fans worry about that. So, yeah. So here we're talking underrated signings here. All right, which deal have you been seeing? Last couple of months where you're like, you know what? Why are we talking about that deal? Like, that's not that crazy. It wasn't that big of a deal, or it was too much money. What deal can you pick out from the offseason, Jovan, where you're like, that's too much?
Lucas Giolito. I do not know how he got $38 million from the Boston Red Sox. But then I looked at their rotation. I said, all right, I get it. I understand. But I don't get it just from the respect of the man just looked shell-shocked last year. Like, after he got, moved from the White Sox, he couldn't figure it out with the Angels, which was surprising because the Angels just needed, like, arms, and he just couldn't do it. And then Cleveland, he just had a rough time there, just giving up bombs after bomb after bomb, just a Congo line, just a whole bunch of bombs every time he was pitching. So
Congo line.
Now he's going. Now he's going to Fenway, which, all right, granted, he has the he got the monster playing behind him, so that should be okay. But you look at the dimensions on the left side, he could be in trouble again. So if he doesn't figure it out, I don't understand that one. Yeah. And I'm sticking with another former White Sox pitcher. I'm going to say Lance Lynn too. Granted, he got a 1-year, $11 million deal, but come on, man! Like Lance Lynn
the Cardinals, the Cardinals' average age of that rotation now is like 40 years old.
Gotta be up there.
They should have brought back Adam Wainwright if they was
And they just not even rotation, but they're bringing back Matt Carpenter. They're just bringing back all the old heads.
I saw that, and that's a sign of a team that's not ready to turn the page yet, which is very.
What do you think Arenado and Goldschmidt are thinking?
Trade me,
like we're in hell.
Send me to a contender.
A lot of nostalgia going on there in St. Louis right now. A lot of nostalgia. Carver's coming back.
I feel bad for Arenado because Arenado was on the Rockies for years, and he had like one playoff appearance in the wild card. And I think the Cardinals made that. Well, the Phillies beat him. A couple of years ago in the wild card. So Arenado has really had a rough trail here. But back to the signings, man. That Cardinals rotation with Kyle Gibson and Lance Lynn.
That's another one. That's another one. Like you're just for those two, you just hoping they can get to the fifth inning. Like you get to the fifth inning. If you get to the fifth inning with those guys,
Kyle Gibson's a ground ball pitcher. Everything's okay.
Right. If they're on. But there could be a time where they're going to get when they're going to be. Oh my God! Could you imagine like when they got to go into Colorado when you just see Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson lined up like? And don't get me wrong, the Rocky rotation is bad too. Like Cal Quantrill and those dudes there. It could be an offensive showcase with just no pitching.
Just imagine that starting rotation heading into LA to La La Land to face that lineup in the Dodgers. I mean, that's just Lynn.
You just better hope you have Sonny Gray to open. You gotta hope that you have Sonny Gray either at the beginning of that set or at the end because you're going to depend on who, what, when, where, why, and what we're going to do.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to get right in that middle of that rotation on that spot, right? On that next day. Oh no, Sonny Gray. He pitched the rubber game in that last series. We're not gonna have him for the Dodgers series. That's not something.
And they ain't got Lance Lynn who gave up 43 home runs last year. Like I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe when I looked at the stats. I was like, hold on, 43.
I didn't even realize that.
Oh man. Speaking of guys who give up a lot of home runs, Aaron Nola, he's back in a Phillies uniform. Jovan, I'm a big Aaron Nola guy. I know he gave up a lot of home runs. I'm a big Aaron Nola defender. What do you make? What do you make of the Phillies bringing him back? I mean, they've kind of had a quiet offseason overall. Aaron Nola's back in the fold for the Phillies. What say you on that contract?
They needed him back. They needed him. Granted, I know a lot of people, like you said, didn't like the home runs because they just seemed to like happen at the most inopportune times last year. Like he just be cruising through 5, cruising to 6, and then he just leaves like a breaking ball, just hanging up in the middle of the zone and is getting crushed. And you're like, oh my God, like Phillies are now only up by 3, and we're waiting for Topper to come take him out of the game. But I think what he did. He had a rough, I think, middle part of last season. I think we all agree where he was just literally like giving up a home run every start. But the way that he turned it around, going into September and then in the postseason, like I think that's something that that you can't teach, right? That mentality, just go in like, yeah, I might have had a rough regular season, but postseason time, like it's money time, and he's shown that the last 2 years. So I think you want that, and you want that continuity, right? He's been a Philly, and you want to keep as many homegrown guys as you can. Like, don't get me wrong. Phillies fans, I know the Phillies love to spend in free agency, bring in the Harpers, the Turners, the Castellanos, the Schwarbers. It's nice to see, them, keep one of their guys, and see it through to where the point where he can retire, as a Philly. Him and Willer are one of the best 1-2 combinations, in baseball when they're on their game. So I don't have no problem with it. 7 years, 170 million. Hey, I'm happy for the man. He's got generational wealth now.
He does. And he seems like a good guy. That's all the talk from a lot of the reporters and people that know him is he's a great guy. So you got to be happy for him from that standpoint too. Let's talk general Phillies as well. I mean, that's really all the Phillies have done this offseason. You know what I mean? They're sparring with Alec Boehm right now, saying, "Oh, we want 3.6 million. You want 4, like whatever. They'll get it done." Nola's really the only thing that's happened. Are you satisfied with what Dombrowski and Fold have done, Jovan, or do you think they still need to do more? Or if there's players that they haven't, like the Yamamotos and the haters, anybody out there on the market that's gone to other teams that you think the Phillies should have scooped?
Not on the top of my head, I feel like with the Phillies, I think, for them, it was, for them not to go out and grab anybody. I think that's a good thing, right? Like you want to see this through and almost bring back the same guys and see if you can keep that continuity going instead of, all right, we want to go spend stupid money and like throw another like 300, 200 million and like 27 Yankees, right? And just like go ahead and do it again, right? Because there's a lot of people that feel like center field is like a huge issue, right? Maybe, and I've, seen Phillies fans, say like maybe they should go and, go get Cody Bellinger, and throw him out in center field when it's like, you could do that, granted, right? Because Bellinger's coming off a great year, left-handed bat, another left-handed bat to go in that lineup. But I also do want to see, what a Johan Rojas can do in a full season, even if he doesn't start with the big league club, right? If he gets a little bit more reps in AAA, I want to see what he can do, from an offensive standpoint, because I think we all agree his defense is already there. Like his defense is there. Like in the Phillies, they haven't had like a center fielder, and no disrespect to Brandon Marsh, right? I think Marsh, from the reclamation project that they took from the Angels to bring him, and turn him around, like I think, the Phillies are in a great spot in the outfield. I mean, I would like to see them, maybe get one more bullpen piece just because you're trying to replace Craig Kimbrell, even though it's not, I don't think that will be hard.
Nick's Orioles, they got him now. Oh, he's saving
Right.
he's gonna put him right over the Astros. Oh, can't wait.
Craig Kimbrell ninth inning in Camden Yards is going to be a show. I don't know if that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing.
Orioles. Listen, I got a soft spot. I got a soft spot for the O's down there. All right.
Oh, so you're okay with Craig Kimbrell down there? All right.
No, I don't love it, but it's all right. It's okay.
sorry to throw you off, Jovan, there, but
also, no, you're fine.
Yeah, one thing I want to mention too, because you brought up Johan Rojas, people he was god awful in the playoffs at the plate. People forget, man, 60, 70 games, his OPS was above league average. Like he was a decent hitter, man. Like he was actually a decent hitter. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. From AA at that, right? When's the last time we saw the Phillies, straight up just call up somebody that's 22 years old from AA and say, hey,
right,
you're going to play right now and we'll see what happens. Like, yeah, he was, like you said, teams knew to pitch, just go after him with the high fastball and things like that in the playoffs. But I think that experience will only help him, right? So I think having him, like I said, people want to get another bat in center field. I feel like, yeah, you could do that, with that fourth outfield spot, but I feel like they probably have internal candidates, for that fourth outfield spot. I'm hoping, for Carlos De La Cruz, in that situation for that fourth outfield spot, because I feel like he's really ascending. And I think he'll really, make some noise. But overall, I feel like them not doing anything is a good thing. Now, I know, like I said, them losing the last few games in NLCS, it's not a great look, but it wasn't because they just weren't pitching. It was just offense just went cold with your top hitters at the wrong time.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it. They don't have to go out and make this gigantic splash. I'm with you. I think they do need to add another bullpen piece. That would be nice to add to the back end of the rotation, kind of solidify the 8th and 9th innings, right? But going back to Johan Rojas, I'm with you. Give the guy some reps. Like, even if he does start down at AAA, like, he's shown he's a big league defender. He's a big league glove. Like, he is legit out there in center field and can cover a lot of ground. We haven't seen a guy like that since Shane Victorino here, really, in all estimation. So with a glove like that. And we have to remember, he sent this team to the playoffs. He's the one who got the walk-off hit. I'm just saying. He had a pretty good batting average, great OPS. It's above league average, like Francisco said. So I think with Rojas, you got to give him just some at-bats. And heading into next season, I think the Phillies are still in a really, really good spot. But I do want to bring this up. This has been a topic on our show for the past couple of weeks, of shows. The Hall of Fame ballots have been out there. And there's two guys that used to play for the Philadelphia Phillies that are probably longtime legends of the Philadelphia Phillies that Francisco doesn't believe they deserve to go into the Hall of Fame. And there's one, Jimmy Rollins and Chase Utley. Now, I did my mock ballot. Francisco did his mock ballot. Jovan, are Jimmy Rollins and Chase Utley maybe not first ballot Hall of Famers, but are they Hall of Famers, and will they get in? And do you think they should get in?
Are they first ballot? No. Should they get in? Yes. Just because I feel like the era that they played in, they helped define the era of baseball, when they played. Rollins, you look at, all right, 3-time All-Star, ain't really great. National League MVP, I think that holds weight, for what he did at the shortstop position. And, Chase Utley, I think he helped, help continue a legacy at second, at second base with how he played the game, right? Defensively, hard nosed, had some pop in his bat. Offensively, again, I don't know numbers off the top of my head when it comes to Hall of Fame, because this is not like the Basketball Hall of Fame, right? Everybody gets in the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Right.
You could be Kyle Lowry. He'll probably get in the Basketball Hall of Fame, but
right. Grant Hill's in the Hall of Fame. I mean, come on.
Yeah. So
You
you get the drift. You get the drift
Yeah.
here. So I don't think they're first ballot, just because we know baseball writers are very tough in how they pick who gets in and who doesn't get in. But with what they've done in their career in Philly, and even when they left Philly, right, more so Utley than Rollins, because Rollins kind of dipped after he left. I feel like they're Hall of Fame worthy, just because they defined an era of baseball where it was just like, you can't talk about 07, 08, 9, 10, 11 without mentioning the Phillies and mentioning Rollins and Utley, and even Howard, even though Howard won't get in, but those two specifically, you have to mention them.
Yeah, I understand. I see the argument for Utley. I'll say that. I see the argument. I don't see the argument for J-Roll. Howard already fell off the ballot. I mean, I think he was on the ballot like a year or two ago, and he didn't even get 5%. So Howard never even got the chance.
Howard will be a Wall of Famer, but that's...
Yes, of course. As will J-Roll, as will Utley. And especially J-Roll, that's where he belongs and only belongs there. I love J-Roll. Look, I just tweeted out, look, it sucks for all the people that work at Sports Illustrated and all that stuff. That's a terrible situation. But I did tweet out, my favorite Sports Illustrated cover was Jimmy Rollins on the cover before he won MVP. I'm just saying, I love J-Roll. He was my favorite Philly growing up. But he's not a Hall of Famer. As we close out with the Phil stuff here, Jovan, what do you like their chances to win in 2024? I know you like them running it back, but what do you see them in the National League? Matched up against potentially the Dodgers, Ohtani, Yamamoto, Glass now there. How do you feel about the Phils heading into 2024?
I feel like the Phillies they're going to be in the playoffs again, which I think everybody will love. Like, hey, we're playing playoff baseball again, right? Will they win the division? I don't know, just because that Braves offense is just so explosive. Doesn't matter who's pitching, who's pitching for them. So I see them getting back in the postseason again, even if it's a wild card. I think Phillies fans are used to it. Like, take it. However you get in, right? I could see them getting back to the NLCS until the Braves prove that they can beat them in the playoffs. Then you gotta like the Phillies' chance to get to the NLCS. Granted, the Dodgers, just an all-star squad. Like, it's a loaded team. That's like MLB The Show, like God level diamond cards just all over the field. like just loaded from top to bottom. But outside of that, you got the Phillies, the Braves. Who in the NL Central really scares you?
Do you like? All right, let's talk about the team that just went to the World Series. Do you like the Diamondbacks?
Diamondbacks, I do. Gallen. And I think they added Eduardo Rodriguez this offseason, which I think
underrated signing, by the way, in my opinion.
Very, very underrated, very good, signing for them, because I feel like that was the thing, especially when we got into the playoffs, like who was going to be that third, guy for them. Now, adding him, you can kind of even make him 2, put Kelly at 3. Like, you do a lot of things at that 2-3 spot. I like the Diamondbacks. That offense is good. They have a lot of young talent, as well, with Marte, even though he's not young, but still, very good. Corbin Carroll, Gabriel Moreno, I think is going to become a really big household name, this year. And, they got Jordan Lawler, one of their top prospects, I think, could, help them out this year as well. That's a scary team. So you got, I think if we look at it like tiers, right, you have obviously the Dodgers like in tier 1 by themselves, and tier 2 is probably your Phillies and your Braves, and then you got to put the Diamondbacks in tier 2, just because they are the NL representative, they are the defending National League, champions, and until you beat them, until they don't get there, then they have to claim that spot.
Yeah, I think you have to put them in there just because they won last year, right? And they got better in this offseason. They have the young players though, Francisco. Like you have to realize,
they lose 2 less games, not even the playoffs. So I mean, I'm just saying. I like the moves they made. I'd probably put him in the tier below him. I'm not saying they're not a playoff team. I'm just saying I'd probably go Dodgers.
They're probably
obviously
they're top of class. They're tier 3.
Yeah, I would say Dodgers, tier 2, Braves, Phillies. Anybody in that Central? Am I missing one?
Exactly.
I don't think so, right? Brewers, no.
Brewers, no.
Phillies, Braves. Who am I thinking of? The West. I mean, the Padres can. I don't know. The Padres are weird. Who made the wild card from the Giants? No. Who is it? Deep. Nah. Yeah. It's like the third tier is like 5 teams. It's like Diamondbacks, Marlins, maybe the Brewers, Mets, right? The Reds or something like that.
Yeah, the Reds could be. The Reds could be there.
Ellie, Ellie kind of had a crap rookie year, so maybe he can show some people what's good. Nick, where shall we transition now? Rule changes.
You're shooting at all my guys today, man. You're throwing shots. Just throwing shots. I want to talk about some rule changes with Jovan. We know the big one last year was the addition of the pitch clock. It was pretty decent. I think it took some time for players to get used to it. It made the game a little more faster. It got a little slower as the season went on, but they instituted that. But they're modifying it this year, right? It's going down from 20 seconds to 18 seconds. What do you make of some of these changes that they've made, specifically the pitch clock, and them still modifying it heading into this season, only getting 1 year of the first round that they had?
I know people were tripping about the pitch clock, but I didn't see that wrong with it. Like, people's like, oh my God, baseball's already long and boring. But then I just go to the fact of you just don't like baseball then. Like, call it what it is. Like, you don't like baseball. Like, people act like baseball is like this 4-hour, 5-hour game. Like, you're going to the stadium at 7, but hey, you might not leave till midnight. Like, it's not one of those type of things. Like, you'll get home at a decent hour. Like, you'll be there. And I think even like when we watch the games on TV, like, you're not really sitting there thinking and looking at a shot clock, in basketball, like, oh my God, 5 seconds left. Like, it's got to get this pitch off. But I think at the same time, offenses started to exploit it a little bit, right? Because pitchers, you couldn't throw over, a certain amount of time. So which led to, hey, Ronald Acuna, Esteury Ruiz, they were saying this showtime on the base pads and, and exploit that there. So I have no issue with the pitch clock. Like you said, the games did seem a little bit faster, especially once we, got, past. I feel like every time like we got to like the 5th and in a lot of games, like the games just started to like really pick up and be like boom, 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 and be like this game start at 7 and it'd be like 9:30 in the games like in the 9th inning. So I like the change up because like you said, sometimes there'd be pitchers or just be like sitting around just mulling around on the mound, just like, all right, bases loaded. I'm going to throw a pitch here. All right, need the manager to come out to talk to me. Warm somebody up. Takes like 15 seconds. So just a little intricacies. I can see how people trip, but I didn't have no problem with it.
Yeah, I mean, Odubel Herrera in the batter's box, taking 3 hours to finally, oh, look at me. I have to do all this to have a 250 batting average. And
even Bryce. Even Bryce would take an hour in the God. Bryce Harper would take an hour in the batting.
He'd put with his batting gloves and then he would mess with his knees. Stuff like it was a little weird. Well, Nomar Garcia-Parra wouldn't be able to do his thing, from back in the day. Probably wouldn't be able to do the batting glove thing. Probably wouldn't be able to. Just saying. So, any of the rule changes that you didn't like, Jovan?
I'm trying to think. What other rule changes did we have?
So bigger bases, the pitch clock.
Bigger bases obviously led to people just still in like an absurd number of bases. Like,
yeah.
I don't think like what Acuna had he had like 70 or something like that.
Yeah,
70.
Like that's sick. Like
yeah, it's insane. And
you only see that in like video games. Like what?
Right.
Like
and people were like, what was the argument? It was like, oh, he wouldn't have done that without the. Well, Nick, do you remember? Like, what were people saying after he got to 70?
Oh, they were saying because they couldn't throw over as much because pitchers couldn't throw over as much. Now they
basically like,
yeah, that's why.
Yeah, but it was whack. Like, give the guys credit. Like, this is where the game is.
He got speed. Man. If you got speed, you can exploit it. Like,
you know what people were saying? People were devaluing it, saying, "Oh, anybody can do that." I'm like, he's the only guy that did it.
No,
he's the only guy. No one else did it. So, I mean, what are you talking about? You know what I'm saying?
It's a special class of base runners, right? Like the only other guy close to him was like Esteury Ruiz, right?
Right.
That's just because he has just nasty speed. Like.
Imagine if Billy Hamilton had the pitch clock and the throw over. Oh my goodness.
Billy Hamilton would probably be like still in the league if that was the case.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Well, Ricky Henderson.
Yeah, Ricky
Hey.
too, obviously. Yeah. I gotta ask because they're moving it with no runners on. They're moving it from 20 seconds to 18. Do you think that's gonna have a big difference heading into this year? Or I mean, it might for Aaronola, but for some other pitchers maybe. But 2 seconds, you think it's gonna make a difference?
Nah, 2 seconds. I mean, most of these guys are getting their pitches off like within at that 5-second mark. Like, I don't see no guy. Like, granted, there are some pitchers that be like, they'll take it down and you can see the clock where it's like 2 seconds. Like Craig Kimbrell, You're like, yo, man, you gotta go. Like, you can't just keep waiting there. Like, you gotta throw it. 2 seconds though. If it was like 20 to 15, then I think it'd probably be more because like guys really have to speed up, you know, what they're doing and getting the pitch in the pitch com and all those things. But nah, 18 seconds, don't see it as an issue.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I don't think there's really any other rule changes. I think they talked about, I don't know if you saw this, Nick or Jovan, like they're talking about like widening the
they did
the first base start.
That's gonna happen. That got passed. So the runner's lane's going to be bigger than it was.
Interesting.
I mean, I don't understand that. I mean, I guess you don't want collisions or anything to happen going to first base, but I mean,
they gotta just relax.
Talking about it,
they gotta relax. Just relax. Rob Manfred. Hey, relax on.
Don't get your face that close to the screen. No one wants to see that. Don't get.
It's just gotta relax on some of these rule changes. They're unnecessary. Like at this point, like
I agree.
20 to 18, like. Because they went up a little bit throughout the year, through each month, like it went up a couple of minutes in each game. Like we gotta chill out.
20 to 18 is not that big of a deal. Like it's not going to change the difference. Like a baseball game is going to finish between 2 hours and 30 minutes and 2 hours and 45 minutes. Like that's where it's going to finish at. Like, and you can leave in the 7th inning if you so choose. Like nobody's not saying
go ahead.
Nobody's saying stay until the 9th inning. Like, hey man, if your team's getting blown out and getting smoked, hey, 13-1, you might as well hop on the subway and go home. Like,
right.
exactly.
Get
some sleep early. All right. So Jovan, we've definitely appreciated having you on. For a while here too. I want to close out since you are a betting guy. So the first question I want to ask, where do you rank baseball betting, right now out of all the sports? And why should people do it? Baseball specifically.
Where do I rank baseball betting? Obviously football is just, I think football's king for a lot of people just because it's once a week, right? You can just load up and just fire off like once a week, every Sunday, load up your account, fire it off. I feel like baseball, I would probably put it, in my opinion, I will put it over basketball just because I feel like there's more there's more value to be had. Not saying in basketball that there isn't, right? Because you can obviously bet on points, rebounds, assists, triple doubles, 3-point props, things like that. But baseball, I think there's so much to explore, right? You're talking about, betting on full game, money lines, sides, totals, even F5s, right? If you don't want to bet on the team, for a full game money line, you can bet on their F5, which is they just got to be ahead up until the 6th inning. So you get to that 6th inning and you got like the Royals on the F5 money line, they could blow the game in the 9th, but hey, if you got them winning up into the 6th, like that's great. So I think there's a lot of things that to do in baseball betting like that. The props, a lot of people that I follow and talk to on a daily basis, they love betting on baseball props, K props, earned run props, home run props, total base props. Like it's a lot, and it's a lot of fun because there's a game on almost every day. Like I think that's the fun part about it. Like obviously basketball, like there's always a game on every night. For the most part, it's 82 games. Baseball, talking about 162 games. Like you can bet on baseball every day, but not feeling pressured to have to bet the board every night.
Interesting. I gotta ask. It's way too early. It's January. We haven't even started spring training yet. Who are you betting on? Best odds for the World Series and MVP. Who would you take right this second, right now?
God, I was thinking about World Series and looking at FanDuel for the show, and I was like, it's so hard because like I can see the case why I can see the case why, the Braves and the Dodgers and things are, at the top, right? And it's hard. Like, to be honest with you, I don't even have a pick on World Series yet because I just don't know. Like, everything just points to the Dodgers just winning it, right? Like, as long as they just stay healthy, like, and the rotation stays healthy, like, they should just clean the board and just go. So, in World Series, I don't have one yet. MVP, which is MVP in any sport's a very finicky market. Like, you just
Reese
don't
Hoskins.
know.
I'm just saying, that's gonna be my bold take for the year. I already know.
Wonder what his odds are.
Wow.
What are his odds right now?
Take it right now, man. Take it right now. Reese Hoskins when it comes.
That would be wild if Reese Hoskins, somehow, some way became MVP. Like, but then that would cause Phillies fans to like be up in the uproar.
Cubs get to the World Series, World Series MVP Reese Hoskins as well.
Hey,
all that.
I will say, Ellie De La Cruz is plus 12,000 right now.
Hey, Nick, you got to take that right now, dude.
Ellie, an MVP. I don't go that far. I do like Ellie. I do like a couple of Ellie props this year. I do like a couple of Ellie props. I like him. I think I have him at 12-1 to lead the league in stolen bases. I know that's going to be a tough stretch with Acuna and Estuy Ruiz, but I feel like he had 35 and 30 and 98 games last year.
Yeah,
and he played the full season. I think he can at least get 50. Just before I got on the show with you guys, I took his stolen base props. I think it was like over under 39.5. So I grabbed it because he had 35 and 98 games, and he was called up in June. So I think he could definitely hit that over there. But MVP, AL, I'm sneakily in the AL, Julio Rodriguez at 50-1 is very intriguing to me. Last year, I think he played well, 32 home runs, 103 RBIs, 275, had 37 stolen bases. In any other year, 30 home runs, 30 stolen bases. You're like, hey, man, you should be the MVP, but not when, you got guys stealing like 50, 60 stolen bases. I feel like, with the division that he plays in, right, the Astros and, the Rangers, like there's going to be, and I say this for every sport, right, to win MVP, you got to have a good statistical season, but you got to have moments, right? And he's going to be going up against these teams where he's going to have some moments because this Mariners team will be there in the end, compete for a playoff spot. So 15-1 for Julio on FanDuel right now. Shop around because you can always get better numbers, better odds, prices on these things. Like you could find Julio maybe at 18-1. Depends on the book, right? Just shop around. So that's where I will lean to for AL. NL, I don't know. That's another weird, tricky market because if you look at FanDuel right now, it's Acuna, Betts, Freeman, Ohtani, Olsen, Tatis, Harper. Like you could make the case that like Acuna and Olsen could like knock each other out, which you probably thought they should have happened last year, right? Because Olsen had 52 home runs. Like he was just unconscious,
raking.
And any other year, Matt Olson probably walks away with MVP, and then the Dodgers guys, Freeman, Betts, Ohtani, somebody's going to cancel somebody out. So I don't know. I don't know in the NL. It's adding Ohtani, I think, just kind of shakes up just a whole bunch of awards races and how who can win and what they can win right now.
Yeah. Oh, I got one for you. I mean, Diamondbacks plus 3,500 for the World Series right now. Are you taking that? I mean, to get back. Apparently I've been disrespecting the Diamondbacks, so
anytime, and this is why I say to try to tell people, when it comes to betting, like there is no problem betting on futures like World Series and like awards and stuff like that because you're taking a flyer, you're taking a risk. Like 35-1, you throw a quick $3 to $5 on there, you're not sweating it, right? You're not going to be like, oh my god, I could just put my mortgage on it because like I'm banking on this to happen. Like you're hoping that like the Diamondbacks are 35-1, but you're hoping like if they start to play better, those odds are going to shorten quickly. So if they were like crazy, we'll just say if they somehow are like leading the NL West by the time we get to the All-Star break, that number, that 35-1 is not going to be there anymore. But you could say like, hey, I got the 35-1 ticket and not the plus 120 ticket that everybody's trying to hammer on because they're having success. So 35-1 is not horrible. So if you take it, I wouldn't be mad at you. Or even if Nick took like the Orioles to like win the AL East, I wouldn't be mad.
Which he will. He's taking all the Orioles props.
I'm putting all the Orioles props. I think the Orioles are gonna have a great year this year.
Are you going to bet on Jackson Holiday to win Rookie of the Year?
If Jackson Holiday gets up when he gets up here, that's not a bad bet at all.
He's currently second. He's currently second on FanDuel behind Evan Carter.
Evan Carter.
Makes sense.
See, I would take Holiday. I would definitely take. I might take a flyer.
We know you would.
Listen, I know I'm a Phillies fan, but I got a special thing.
Yeah,
for the
you're an
Orioles.
I'm waiting for you to wear your Orioles jerseys. Well, we're gonna go to Orioles Phillies game and wear an Orioles jersey. You know what I'm saying?
We'll go. All three of us. We'll go to Camden Yards. How about that?
Yeah, and you'll be repping. I'm not gonna be sitting anywhere near you. Me and Jovan will be at ours somewhere else. We'll get separate tickets from you.
Nick is gonna sit with the bird bath.
Exactly.
Yeah. Listen, I saw these guys come up through the minors. They have a special place in my heart.
It's so cute. It's so cute.
Special place in my heart.
Ho. I thought you was going. That should be. When you say that, I thought that should be for the Nationals guys. Like I
saw both. Like, you know how many times I saw Aberdeen Ironbirds? You know how many times I saw them? So many times. And they're good.
They're literally coming down. They're literally coming down the street. Like
exactly. They're coming right up the road, right around the corner.
Anyway. All right, Jovan, it has been an absolute pleasure. That was a lot of fun. Big time appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for hopping on, my guy.
Hey, no problem. Hey, man, appreciate y'all for having me. It's always fun to talk about baseball because I feel like I said, right? I feel like there ain't a lot of people that like talk about it in this like type of way, like where it's not so much like hot takey, like first take, like type of environment. Like y'all break down the game, but you have fun doing it. It'll get you to think, right? Like it gets you to think and like to have fun with it. So I'm glad to be able to hop on with y'all guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Where can they find your work?
Oh yeah. You just follow me on Twitter, X, whatever that app's called these days. At Jovan10. Hopefully we'll be getting the Total Sports All podcast back up and running. You know, probably was going to do that if the Eagles stayed in the playoffs, but that never happened. So we'll figure out, we will launch the podcast again. The website's still up and running. And you can like check me out on FanSided, where I help run the city sites over there as the associate editor over there for regional sports betting. So FanSided, the city sites, Section 215, Empire Rights Bag, pretty much all their city sites where I help create content over there. So pretty much that's where you can find all my stuff at.
Awesome, cool. Make sure you find all of Jovan's stuff there, as he said. This has been episode 41 of The Shift. Thank you to Jovan Alford for being guest number 2 on The Shift. Definitely want Jovan to come back for future episodes. Nick Earnshaw, episode 41 of The Shift. We will see you guys next week.